Thank you for joining us today. I want to tell you a story about what's happening at businesses, large and small, old and new across the globe, that are struggling to make the most of their business intelligence analytics systems, optimize their processes, speed innovation, and ultimately create a more valuable business. Collectively, these companies I'm talking about are investing trillions of dollars every year in technologies vital to digital transformation. And they're waiting anxiously for a payoff, which in many cases, as we've already heard, isn't arriving. And that's where my story really begins. Executives are anxiously waiting for the technology to pay off in the middle of this COVID-19 pandemic, which has accelerated an already rapid process of transformation. It's raised the stakes and made the importance of digital adoption even more prominent. To understand how prominent, WalkMe and HBR Analytics Services put together a survey that we sent out to more than 500 senior executives at companies large and small around the world. And we asked them what's holding them back from achieving their transformation goals. Where are the gaps? And how are they using or not using digital adoption platforms to help close those gaps, manage the transition to remote work, and power their transformations? We asked people about what they wanted to achieve, the strategic importance of rapid adoption by their people, how well people are using the technology right now, and the ease of use of common business software and platforms. We wanted to know also how they're measuring the progress of their digital adoption programs and their transformations, and whether insiders or outsiders were responsible for promoting digital adoption across the business. These results establish the baseline for future editions of WalkMe's annual report. It will help executives optimize, understand the challenges of what they're doing, and optimize the value of their business intelligence and analytics systems, perform complex distributed processes, accelerate innovation, and other critical objectives. And this report, I think, will serve as a baseline for a lot of companies as they benchmark their efforts. And it positions WalkMe with HBR and Analytics Services help as a trusted authority and thought leader on the topic. So let's take a closer look at some of what we've learned. There's overwhelming agreement that digital adoption contributes to successful transformations. More than 80% of our respondents agreed that it's a strategic differentiator. About the same percentage of respondents say that senior management requires analytic tools to gauge the rate of digital adoption at their organizations. This is an issue that's especially important for CIOs. And it's important because people need to be digitally adept to get their work done at speed and at scale. And that means people using multiple digital touchpoints and mastering new ones as they're introduced. Right now, the typical employee at 82% of our respondents interacts with 4 or more platforms or touchpoints every working day. 56% of respondents say their employees are expected at least 3 new digital touchpoints every year. And that's before we get into software updates. And these expectations of agility and adept performance aren't always there. They're not always fulfilled. Sizable numbers of our respondents say that their employees are struggling with their digital platforms like ERPs, which are a particular headache, and with using multiple applications to execute complex cross-functional business processes. And why do they struggle? Well, I talked to an expert about this, and he told me the digital tools, some are designed pretty well for end users. Others are simple and easy to adopt. Others are inherently more complex. Some are used infrequently, and some just aren't well designed. And that's where DAPs come in. They can be invaluable in realizing the full potential of the digital and the human elements of transformation. This is what happened at a software as a service provider that I spoke to. I spoke to a sales executive there who told me about how her teams had, when the pandemic struck, put together these great custom packages to help their people adjust to the demands of remote work and keep their employees safe. These were wonderful packages that made the customers really happy and made the provider's finance department tear out their hair. because every time one of these transactions was entered into the ERP, it would kick out and require manual resolution because it was a custom package. Finance wanted answers, and they wanted this work off their desks, and they went to our sales executive, who figured out that if she included a little walk me tip that told people to click a particular box before they entered before they hit send on the transaction, it would move through right smoothly, right through the ERP, no exceptions, no manual intervention required, which made the finance team a lot happier and just smoothed operations at the company a great deal. And that's all in the day's work for a digital adoption program. And we wanted to know with our survey and with the interviews I did, whether variations on that story are playing out across other enterprises. How do CIOs measure enterprise-wide digital adoption anyway? How do they assess where their digital adoption platform is helping deliver returns on their technology investments? And that brings us to the question of metrics. What our survey revealed about metrics is that companies are all over the shop when it comes to measuring how they're doing. You know, some of them look at customer employee sentiment, others look at processes, others look at revenue. Some companies don't look at anything. That was the thing that really caught my attention when I looked at the survey results. 10% of the people who responded to this survey said that they don't measure the effectiveness of their technology investments. 3% said they didn't know. And so, you know, first of all, what are these people doing anywhere near a transformation? And who is actually running a transformation if they're not measuring, you know, where they're going or how fast they're getting there? And, you know, this tells me, I think, that in a lot of cases, the vendor tail is wagging the client dog. And in fact, it's the vendors who are driving the transformation. And that does not end well. The vendors aren't really concerned with hooking up the technology to deliver maximum value and create new ways of creating value. So I think that, you know, companies are going to have to think hard about what their metrics ought to be. You know, maybe they ought to be looking at time saved because they don't have to create new training videos and training manuals that nobody reads. Or you can look at cost avoidance. You know, you can extend the life of your tech stack by doing these low code or no code workarounds in WalkMe or other digital adoption programs that, you know, don't require you to go in and recode and repatch and take a lot of time on, take your systems offline. You know, error rates can be reduced, which is good for your NPS. And perhaps most important, you're freeing up your people to do higher value work. Your human resources professionals can be working on leadership with the heads of business units instead of trying to help people figure out how much PTO they have left. You know, it's a much higher value use of their time. So I'm learning, you know, as we continue to do these reports every year, I'm interested to find out how the thinking about metrics is going to evolve. And one other finding I want to point out here is that almost 75% of the companies that we spoke to use in-house teams to drive the digital adoption programs at their companies. Only 5% rely on the original software developer for that kind of information and that kind of training. Only 8% turn to global software integrators. They turn to their inside people because they're the ones who know the people. They know how business gets done in the organization. They know the systems that are used. They know where the bottlenecks are and the pain points. And so it makes a lot of sense to have your in-house team. And they're the ones who can spot the opportunities for those early wins that build momentum for widespread implementation. Which brings us now to the question of these digital adoption teams. It turns out that the digital adoption professional is emerging as a legitimate job category. About 2,600 people already on LinkedIn list digital adoption or WalkMe skills on their resumes. And kind of as a result of that, some forward-looking companies are sponsoring fellowships and launching institutes to attract new practitioners, raise professional standards, and offer unexpected career opportunities to people whose lives have been derailed and lives and careers have been derailed by the pandemic. And this is an exciting development. I'm looking forward also to seeing how that category grows. So that brings me to the end of the story. And what I want to talk about and remind you of, that this report establishes a baseline and helps companies measure year by year how much they're learning and how well they're progressing. Digital adoption platforms are going to help executives take a full view across their tech stack, find out what's performing well, what isn't, where there are opportunities for improvement. And I think that, this is a chance every year for companies to pause, take stock of where they are, and figure out where to go next. I'm looking forward to see how it happens. Thank you.